Hey, and welcome back to JVC English Learning Academy. My name is Laura, and I'm here to guide you on your journey to clear, confident, and natural English. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a lesson. Your support truly helps this channel grow. All right, take a deep breath, relax, and let's begin today's session. That night felt longer than any night I had ever lived, and even now, when I close my eyes, I can still remember the way the room looked in the dark, the quiet ticking of the small clock near my bed, and the slow turning of my mind as I tried again and again to fall asleep, but sleep did not want to find me, and I wondered if you have ever had a night like that too, a night when your body feels tired, but your thoughts keep moving like a river that refuses to stop, a night when you lie on your side, then on your back, then on your stomach, hoping one position will finally help you rest. But nothing works, and you begin to feel a soft frustration building inside you, and you think, why can't I sleep? What is wrong with me? But deep down you know nothing is wrong. You are simply human, and sometimes humans forget how to rest, and this is where our story begins, not with action or noise or excitement, but with stillness, with darkness, with the gentle confusion that comes when the world is quiet, but your mind is loud, and I want you to imagine yourself there with me, lying in the softness of your bed, feeling the fabric of the blanket on your legs, hearing the small sounds of the night. Maybe a car passing in the distance, maybe a dog barking softly, maybe the wind touching the window, and as you listen, as you breathe in and out slowly, you start to notice the details you always ignore during the day, the way the air feels cooler near your feet, the way your shoulders relax just a little when you let them drop, the way your heartbeat slows down when you focus on it, and the room becomes a small world, a quiet world, a world where every little sound grows louder because everything else is so still, and this stillness is both calming and uncomfortable because your body wants to sleep, but your mind is full of unanswered thoughts, and you start thinking about your day, about your conversations, your worries, your dreams for the future, your mistakes, your hopes, and before you know it, you are far away from your bedroom, traveling inside your own head, walking through memories and fears and plans, and that is when I realized something important, something simple but powerful. Sleep is not only about the body. Sleep is also about the mind, and if the mind is not ready, the body cannot rest, no matter how soft the pillow is or how dark the room becomes. And as this realization came to me, I felt a small shift inside, a kind of gentle understanding, like a whisper saying, if you want to sleep, you must learn how to let go. But letting go is not easy, especially when you do not know how to do it, and so I began to explore. Not in the physical world, but in the world of habits, in the small things we do every day without thinking, the things that create the way we sleep, the way we rest, the way we recover from life, and I started to notice patterns. The times I used my phone before bed, the nights I drank tea with too much sugar, the evenings when I watched videos until my eyes felt heavy, but my brain felt awake, and I realized that sleep begins long before the night, that the story of good sleep starts in the morning and continues through the day, and this discovery opened a door inside me, a door to understanding how to create nights that feel peaceful, nights that feel warm and gentle, nights that welcome sleep like an old friend. But on that particular night, the night that felt like it would not end, I was not yet ready, not yet wise, not yet aware, and all I could feel was the weight of my own thoughts, and I wondered if other people like you, people learning English, people working hard, people trying to grow, also struggled with sleep, and I imagined you lying awake somewhere in the world, in a different room, with a different blanket, listening to the same kind of silence, and I wanted to speak to you, to share a moment with you, to tell you that you are not alone, that many people around the world face the same quiet challenge at night, and maybe, just maybe, if we explore this together in simple English, in gentle rhythm, in slow storytelling, we can discover something important, not only for sleep, but also for life. And so I closed my eyes again, took another slow breath, and began to ask myself gentle questions. What if sleep is not a battle but a conversation? What if tiredness is not an enemy but a message? What if rest is not a luxury but a natural part of being human? And slowly, the room felt different, as if the air became softer, as if the darkness became warmer, as if the night was no longer against me but beside me, waiting patiently for me to understand its language. And the more I breathed slowly, the more I listened to the quiet, the more I felt my body begin to soften. And suddenly I remembered a small thing my grandmother used to say, a simple sentence spoken in a slow, loving voice. Sleep comes when the heart becomes quiet. And when I remembered those words, I felt a kind of peace touch my chest, because maybe that was the answer I had been missing. Maybe sleep was not something to force, not something to chase, but something to invite, something to welcome gently. Like a friend who visits only when you are calm enough to listen. And this idea made me smile in the dark, and I wondered what would happen if I stopped trying so hard, if I let the night be what it was instead of fighting it, if I simply stayed present, breathing slowly, listening to the small sounds around me, feeling the heaviness of my eyelids, feeling the weight of my body pressing softly into the mattress. And in that moment, something changed. Not in the room but inside me, a soft shift, like the turning of a page, like the beginning of a new chapter. And I realized that this night might not be a curse but a teacher showing me that rest begins with understanding, and this understanding would later help me build habits, calm my mind, and sleep deeply. But first I had to learn how to listen, how to feel, how to accept the present moment. And as the night continued, as the clock kept ticking softly, I stayed there in the quiet, discovering little by little that sleep is more than a physical act. It is an emotional journey, a mental journey, a gentle walk toward peace. And this walk begins with awareness, with noticing the small things, with breathing deeply, with letting the body relax naturally instead of forcing it. And as I lay there, letting the night teach me in its soft, patient way, I felt something warm grow inside me, a sense of hope, a feeling that the next night could be better, that maybe all of us can learn to sleep more peacefully if we understand ourselves more kindly. And this is the beginning of our journey together, a journey through simple English, through gentle storytelling, through the art of rest, the science of calm, and the beauty of sleep that waits for us each night, hoping we learn how to welcome it. And as the night slowly softened around me, I understood that this experience, this long sleepless night, would become the story I share with you now, so that together we can explore not only how to sleep better, but how to live with more peace, more awareness, more kindness to ourselves. And as we continue this story in the next sections, we will discover challenges, solutions, habits, reflections, and small moments of transformation that can help anyone, including you, sleep more deeply, live more gently, and learn English through calm, clear, slow narration. And now, as the first part of our story settles like soft snow in your mind, let us prepare to continue, to explore, to learn, and to rest together in the next chapter of this journey toward better sleep. The morning after that long sleepless night arrived slowly, almost shyly, as if the sun itself understood that I had not rested and wanted to be gentle with me. And when I finally opened my eyes, I felt the dull heaviness behind them, the kind of weight that makes the world look softer but also less clear. And I lay there for a moment, staring at the faint light touching the ceiling, feeling both tired and strangely calm, as though part of my mind was still walking through the quiet darkness of the night before. And as I stayed there in silence, I realized something important. Every morning tells a story about the night that came before it, and that morning, the story was simple. I had not slept well, and yet something inside me had changed. A small understanding, a gentle awareness that the night had tried to teach me something. And I felt curious about myself, curious about sleep, curious about why something so natural could sometimes feel so difficult. And as I slowly sat up, feeling my body stretch and my muscles complain softly, I understood that this curiosity could be the first step toward better rest, because when we become curious about our habits, we begin to see the small details we usually ignore. The details that shape our nights and our mornings without our awareness. And with this thought in mind, I stood up, walked to the small window in my room, and looked outside, seeing the quiet street, the soft morning light, the gentle movement of a few leaves. And the world looked peaceful in a way I had not noticed before, perhaps because I was moving slower than usual, perhaps because tiredness makes you pay attention to things you normally rush past, and as I breathed in the cool morning air, I felt a question rising inside me. What if good sleep begins with the way we wake up? What if the first moments of the day shape the last moments of the night? And so I began to explore this idea in my mind, gently, carefully, like someone holding a small bird, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized how true it was, because every habit is a circle. And the habits of the morning feed the habits of the night, and if mornings are full of stress, rushing, noise, and confusion, then nights often carry the same energy. And as I stood there with my hand resting on the cool glass of the window, I decided to start the day differently, slowly. Quietly, with a kind of softness that I hoped would follow me until night returned again, and as I walked to the kitchen, still feeling the fog of tiredness around my mind, I prepared a warm drink, something simple and calming. And while the cup rested between my hands, warming my fingers, I thought about the way we often try to push through tiredness, pretending it does not exist, acting as though sleep is optional. But the truth is that sleep is as important as breathing, as eating, as drinking water, and when we ignore it, our bodies feel lost, our minds feel heavy, our emotions feel confused, and our focus becomes weak. And I wondered why so many people, including me, forget this simple truth, and maybe you have forgotten it too. Maybe you have had mornings when coffee felt like the only solution, mornings when your body walked through the day but your mind stayed behind in the bed, mornings when everything felt heavier than it should because the night did not give you the rest you needed. And as I sipped my warm drink, I decided that this morning, even though it followed a difficult night, would not be wasted. Because a bad night does not have to create a bad day, and a bad night can become a teacher if we listen to it kindly. And so I began to reflect on what had happened, not with frustration, not with judgment, but with simple observation, asking myself gentle questions. What kept me awake? Was it worry? Was it noise? Was it light? Was it my habits? Was it my thoughts? And as I asked these questions, I began to see small truths rising to the surface, like leaves floating up through clear water, and each truth was simple but powerful, and I realized how often I looked at screens late at night, how often I worried about things I could not control, how often I forgot to slow down, how often I carried the stress of the day into the quiet of the night, and in that moment I felt a kind of soft honesty inside me. The kind of honesty that comes not from guilt but from awareness, and I decided that today would be a day of understanding, a day to learn more about myself, a day to prepare for a better night, not by forcing sleep, but by creating the conditions that make sleep welcome. And at that moment, something inside me shifted again, just like the small shift I felt in the darkness the night before, and I realized that change begins with small decisions, gentle decisions, the kind of decisions that feel natural once you make them. And so I put the cup down, stretched my arms, let my shoulders relax, and started to pay attention to the morning in a way I usually did not. And as I looked around, I saw the sunlight slowly filling the room, touching the table, touching the floor, touching my face, and the warmth made me smile even though I was tired, because it felt like the morning was offering me a new beginning, a second chance, a gentle invitation to start again. And as the day continued, I made a decision to move through it slowly, with awareness, with kindness toward myself, because if we want to sleep well at night, we must learn to live gently during the day, and each small choice, eating well, drinking water, moving the body, breathing deeply, taking breaks, staying away from screens before bed. Each of these choices builds a bridge toward peaceful sleep, and as I carried this thought with me, I began to notice how much of my tiredness came not from lack of sleep alone, but from the habits that came before the night, and slowly, gently, I started to adjust them, one by one, not with pressure, but with curiosity, wondering what difference they might make. And as the hours passed, as morning shifted into afternoon, I felt something new inside me, a soft hope, a quiet belief that tonight could be different, that tonight could bring rest, and that the long sleepless night might have been the beginning of a transformation rather than just an inconvenience. And as the sun moved across the sky and the day slowly prepared to become evening, I carried with me the lessons of the night and the calm of the morning, and I found myself feeling grateful, not for the tiredness, but for the awareness it had brought me. The understanding that good sleep is not only about closing your eyes, but about opening your mind to the small habits that shape your life. And with this gentle understanding glowing inside me like a warm light, I continued my day, ready to create the conditions for a better night, a softer night. A night where sleep would find me not as a stranger, but as a friend waiting to return. And as this chapter of our story comes to a quiet close, I invite you to walk with me into the next part of our journey, where we will explore the challenges of evening, the habits that prepare the mind for rest, and the simple truths that help us sleep more deeply, more calmly, and more naturally, as we continue learning English through calm narration, gentle storytelling, and the peaceful rhythm of understanding ourselves one moment at a time. The evening arrived quietly, almost as if it had been watching me throughout the day, waiting for the right moment to enter, waiting for the right moment to put its soft hand on my shoulder and remind me that night was coming again, but this time it would be different. And as the light outside began to fade into a warm orange color, I felt a gentle calm enter the room, the kind of calm that makes you breathe a little deeper without even noticing, and I stood near the window for a long moment, watching the sky shift from gold to pink to a soft, deep blue, and I thought about how every evening is like a doorway, a quiet invitation to slow down, to soften, to prepare the body and the mind for rest. And on this particular evening, after the long sleepless night and the slow thoughtful morning, I wanted to accept that invitation fully, not with pressure, not with fear of another restless night, but with a curiosity that felt calm and honest. And as I moved through the room, turning on a soft light, putting away a few things that were out of place, letting the space become a little neater and cleaner, I felt something inside me start to relax, because our surroundings affect our minds more than we realize, and when our spaces are calm. I walked into the kitchen with quiet steps, as if not to disturb the peaceful feeling that was growing in the air around me, and I prepared a light meal, something simple, something warm, something gentle on the body, and as I ate slowly, tasting each bite, I realized how often I rushed through food, how often I ate while distracted, how often I turned something natural and peaceful into something fast and stressful, and I understood that sleep begins long before bedtime. It begins with the tiny choices we make in the hours before the night arrives. And as I washed the dishes, letting the warm water run over my hands, I felt a calm rhythm forming inside me, a rhythm that made the world feel slower, softer, kinder. When I finished, I sat down in a quiet corner of the room, a place with a small lamp and a comfortable chair, a place I had always liked but rarely used, and I decided to spend a little time there, doing nothing complicated, nothing loud, nothing bright. Just sitting with myself, feeling the gentle end of the day, and I let my breathing slow down, not because I forced it, but because the evening carried a softness that made slow breathing feel natural. And as I sat there, I started thinking about the nights when I had struggled to sleep, the nights when I tried to fall asleep quickly, the nights when I pressured myself to hurry up and rest. And I realized how strange that idea is, because rest cannot be rushed, rest cannot be demanded. Rest must be invited, and the invitation starts with slowing down. I looked around the room, noticing the soft glow of the lamp, the quiet shadows on the floor, the way the air felt still and cool, the way everything seemed to be settling into a peaceful end-of-day rhythm, and I understood that evenings speak a language. And that language is slow, gentle, calm, steady, and the more we listen to that language, the easier it becomes for the mind to let go of the day. I thought again about you, the listener, the learner, the person somewhere in the world listening to this story in simple English, maybe preparing for sleep yourself, maybe wanting to improve your English while relaxing, and I wondered if you had evenings like this. Evenings that wanted to help you rest, but maybe you moved too quickly to notice. Evenings that quietly offered peace, but you were too busy to accept the offer. And in that moment, I felt connected to you, because sleep is a universal experience, something we all share, no matter where we are, and the desire for rest is something every human knows deeply, and perhaps, just like me, you have had nights when sleep felt far away and mornings when tiredness followed you like a shadow. And maybe right now, as you listen, you are hoping to learn not only English, but also how to create better nights for yourself. And so, as the evening continued, I decided to treat this time with respect, to see it as a sacred moment, a bridge between the busy world of the day and the quiet world of the night, a moment that deserved attention, care, and softness. And I decided to stay away from bright screens, away from loud videos, away from quick distractions, because I knew they would make my mind busy again, awake again, restless again, and I wanted to give myself a real chance to sleep well. So instead, I took a warm shower, letting the water relax my shoulders, letting the warmth move through my muscles, letting my mind slow down even more, and when I stepped out, the cool air touched my skin gently, a pleasant contrast, a sign that my body was truly beginning to relax, and I put on comfortable clothes, soft and loose, the kind that feel like a small hug, and I noticed how comforting simple things can be when we pay attention to them. As I prepared the room for night, turning off the brighter light and leaving only the soft lamp, closing the curtains to block the outside light, making the bed neatly so it looked inviting instead of messy, I felt something important. The evening was helping me. Because I was allowing it to help, because I was not fighting against it, because I was moving with the natural rhythm of the day instead of pushing against it, and I realized that this cooperation between mind, body, and evening is one of the keys to good sleep, and that many people, including me, often miss this simple truth because we treat evenings like an extension of the busy day instead of the quiet beginning of the night. As I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling the softness of the blanket, the coolness of the pillowcase, the stillness of the room around me, I reflected on the journey that had led me here, the long sleepless night that taught me awareness, the slow thoughtful morning that taught me honesty, the gentle evening that taught me preparation, and I understood that sleep is not a single moment. Sleep is a process, a journey, a slow walk from light to darkness, from activity to stillness, from thinking to feeling, and the more we honor that process, the more peaceful our nights can become. And as this evening settled fully into night, as the air grew cooler and the world outside quieted, I felt ready in a way I had not felt before, ready not only to sleep, but to welcome sleep, to let it come naturally, to allow it to hold me gently. And I knew that even if the night did not bring perfect rest, it would still be a step forward, a step toward better habits, better understanding, better peace, and better sleep in the future. And with this gentle thought, this soft belief, I lay down, letting the night surround me, letting my breath become slow, letting the calm of the evening wash over me, and as I closed my eyes, I whispered a quiet promise to myself to continue learning, to continue growing, to continue listening to the slow language of the evening, the language that teaches us how to welcome rest and now. The moment I lay down that night, with the quiet room around me and the soft darkness gently filling the space, I felt a familiar sensation rising inside my chest, a soft stirring of thoughts, as if my mind had been waiting all day for this moment. The moment when everything became still, the moment when there were no distractions left, the moment when it could finally begin speaking again, and at first the thoughts were small, simple, almost harmless, little reminders about things I wanted to do the next day, little memories from the afternoon, little pieces of conversations, but slowly, almost silently, they began to grow, stretching wider, reaching deeper, touching parts of my mind I thought I had left behind earlier in the day. And as I lay there under the blanket, feeling the mattress supporting the weight of my tired body, I realized that this was one of the greatest challenges of sleep, not the darkness, not the time, not the bed, but the mind itself, the mind that loves to wander, the mind that loves to talk, the mind that refuses to become quiet just because the night has arrived. And as the thoughts continued to move inside me, I remembered all the nights before when this same thing had happened, all the nights when my body was ready to rest, but my mind kept running like a train that could not stop, and I wondered if you have felt this too. If you have had nights when your thoughts became louder in the silence, nights when your mind suddenly remembered everything you forgot during the day, nights when you wanted to sleep, but your thoughts refused to let you, and as I breathed slowly, trying not to fight the experience, I realized something important. The mind becomes louder in the quiet because it finally has space to speak, and when we do not listen to our thoughts during the day, they come to us at night, asking for attention. And this simple truth changed the way I felt in that moment, because instead of feeling angry at my busy mind, instead of feeling frustrated or impatient, I felt a soft understanding, a quiet compassion, a gentle curiosity toward my own thoughts, and I decided to listen, not with fear, not with urgency, but with calm awareness, because sometimes thoughts only need to be heard before they can let go. So I lay there, breathing slowly, listening to the rise and fall of my own chest, the soft movement of air entering and leaving my body, and I allowed the thoughts to come, watching them like small clouds drifting through the sky, noticing their shape, their movement, their feeling, but not holding on to them, not climbing inside them, not letting them guide me into worry or stress. And as I observed them, something surprising began to happen. The thoughts became softer, quieter, lighter, almost, as if they were slowly dissolving in the calm rhythm of my breathing, and I realized that the mind does not always need to be controlled. Sometimes it simply needs gentle attention, and this understanding began to change everything inside me. As I continued to lie there, breathing slowly and watching the thoughts drift through my mind like soft shadows, I noticed something else happening deep inside me, something gentle but powerful, because the more I allowed the thoughts to move without fighting them, the more space I felt opening inside me, as if each slow breath was creating a small, quiet room in my chest, a room large enough to hold the thoughts without letting them take control. And this feeling was new, calm, almost peaceful. And I realized that this was the part of sleep we often forget to practice, the part where we learn to make space inside ourselves, space for thoughts to pass through, space for emotions to soften, space for the mind to rest even before the body falls asleep. And as I lay there, listening to the soft sounds of the night, I wondered why this simple practice felt so unfamiliar, why it took me so long to discover that I didn't need to push my thoughts away. I only needed to stop chasing them, and I thought about all the nights in my past when I had fought with my own mind, trying to force myself not to think, trying to command myself to sleep, trying to control something that could not be controlled. And I realized that this struggle was exactly what kept me awake, because the more we fight our thoughts, the stronger they become, and the more we try to force sleep, the farther sleep runs from us, like a bird frightened by sudden movement. So I made another gentle decision, right there in the darkness of my room, to stop fighting and to start welcoming, to stop pushing and to start accepting, and as soon as I made that decision, even though I was still awake, the night began to feel different, softer, kinder, more patient, and I remembered something a teacher once told me, something I never truly understood until that moment. Rest is not the absence of thinking. Rest is the gentle return to the present moment, and I repeated those words silently in my mind, letting them become a quiet echo inside me, and I felt myself beginning to understand them in a deeper way. The present moment, I realized, is always simple, always calm, always gentle, because in the present moment, nothing is demanded from us, not yesterday, not tomorrow, not anyone else's expectations, and when we return to the present moment, to the soft feeling of the blanket, to the cool air on the skin, to the slow rise and fall of the breath, the mind naturally begins to relax, to soften, to release its grip on the thoughts it carries. And as I stayed there, bringing myself back again and again to the simple feeling of breathing, I felt the thoughts fading slowly, like waves that had finally lost their strength after reaching the shore, and I understood something that felt like a quiet truth. Maybe the goal is not to silence the mind. Maybe the goal is to let the mind speak, listen without fear, and then gently guide it back to stillness. This idea made me feel peaceful in a way I had not expected, and I realized that many of the thoughts that had seemed so loud at first were not problems to solve. They were simply moments that needed attention, and once they were seen, once they were acknowledged, they no longer needed to shout inside me. And as this inner quiet slowly grew, I felt my eyelids becoming heavier, not because I forced them to close, but because my body was finally relaxing, finally trusting the night again, finally letting go of the pressure that had held it awake. And I understood that sleep is not a command. Sleep is a surrender, a soft falling into comfort, a gentle letting go of the day. As my body relaxed deeper into the mattress, I thought about how many people struggle with this same quiet challenge each night, including maybe you listening right now, people who lie in bed with a mind that refuses to quiet down. People who want to sleep but cannot find the soft door that leads to rest, and I wished, in that moment, that everyone could learn this simple skill, the skill of gentle awareness, the skill of soft listening, the skill of returning to the present without force or pressure, because if everyone knew how to do this, nights would feel kinder, sleep would feel more natural, and the darkness would feel less like a battle and more like a peaceful invitation to rest. And with this understanding warming me from the inside, slow and steady like a small candle in a quiet room, I allowed myself to sink deeper into the night, trusting that even if sleep did not come immediately, I was learning something valuable. Something that would help me not only tonight, but every night that followed. And I realized that the mind is not an enemy to fight. The mind is simply a traveler that sometimes gets lost in its own stories. And like any traveler, it needs gentle direction, not harsh commands. And so I breathed and listened and softened. And I felt the night holding me in a way it had not held me before. And even before sleep finally came, I knew that something inside me had changed. And that change would follow me into the next part of this journey, where we would continue to explore the art of calming the mind, preparing the heart for rest, and learning English through peaceful storytelling and gentle reflection that carries you softly toward the deep comfort of sleep. When the morning light returned after that softer night, a night where my mind finally learned to breathe and my thoughts learned to loosen their grip, I woke up with a feeling I had almost forgotten, the feeling that my body was speaking to me gently, clearly, honestly, as though it had been waiting for a quiet moment to tell me what it needed. And as I stretched slowly under the blanket, feeling the soft pull of my muscles waking up one by one, I realized how rarely we listen to our bodies. How often we push them through busy days, long hours, loud environments, without stopping to hear the small messages they try to send, messages about tiredness, about tension, about the need for movement, about the need for stillness. And I understood that good sleep is not only about the night, it is also about the relationship we build with our bodies during the day, a relationship that can become strong or weak depending on how we treat ourselves, how we breathe, how we move, how we rest. As I sat up, feeling the softness of the morning air on my skin, I placed my feet slowly on the floor and paused there, letting my body fully awaken before taking the first step, and I noticed something interesting. When I moved slowly, gently, without rushing, my body seemed grateful, almost relieved, as though it was happy to be treated with care instead of hurry. And this simple moment made me wonder how many times I had rushed through mornings without thinking, pushing myself into the day with speed instead of calm, and how that rush might have followed me into the night, making sleep harder, heavier, more distant. So I decided that today, this new day after a learning night, would be a day where I listen more closely to my body, as if I were listening to a friend who needed kindness, patience, and attention. I stood up slowly, letting my weight settle evenly on my feet, and as I walked to the kitchen with careful steps, I noticed how different my body felt compared to the morning before. Still tired, yes. Because one good night is not always enough to erase many restless nights, but peaceful, soft, settled, almost as though the body was saying, "Thank you for trying. Thank you for slowing down. Thank you for listening." And as I prepared a simple breakfast, something warm and light, I realized that the body always gives us signs, signs that tell us when we are hungry, when we are full, when we need water, when we need movement, when we need rest, and sleep is one of those signs. One of the most important ones, because it is the body's way of healing, repairing, recovering, and when we ignore that sign, the body becomes tense, the mind becomes clouded, and even simple tasks feel heavy. As I ate slowly, watching the soft morning light move across the table, I thought about the times I had pushed my body too hard, long hours of work, heavy thoughts, endless stress, late-night screens, noisy environments, little breaks. And I realized that sleep had been struggling not because something was wrong with me, but because I had not been caring for the body that was carrying me through life. And this understanding felt like a gentle truth, a truth I wanted to honor, a truth I wanted to live by. After breakfast, I decided to go for a short walk. Not fast, not long, just a quiet walk to wake the body gently and let the fresh air fill my lungs. And as I stepped outside, feeling the cool breeze on my face and hearing the distant sounds of morning life, I felt something inside me expand, a small opening of space inside my chest, as though the walk was not only waking my muscles, but also waking my heart, and I understood that movement is not only for exercise, movement is a conversation with the body, a way of saying. And as I reached the end of my small morning walk and returned home, I felt my body whispering again, softly, gratefully, calmly, and I knew that this day would be another part of the journey toward better sleep. A journey not only of the mind, but also of the body. A journey of listening, caring, and understanding, and I felt ready to continue learning, ready to continue growing, ready to let this gentle transformation guide me toward a more peaceful night once again. After returning from my gentle morning walk, I spent the rest of the day paying attention to my body in small ways, noticing the way it felt when I moved, the way my muscles reacted when I stretched, the way my back sighed softly when I leaned into a chair or took a moment to sit quietly, and I realized that listening to the body is not only about noticing pain or tension, it is also about noticing comfort, noticing softness, noticing ease. And when we practice this gentle attention, the body begins to trust us, begins to communicate more clearly, begins to help us understand what it needs to rest well at night. And as I sipped water slowly, feeling it refresh my throat and fill my stomach, I remembered how often I had rushed, gulped quickly, ignored signals, and I understood that caring for the body in small ways throughout the day is like preparing a soft bed for the mind to lie on later, a quiet preparation that makes sleep come more easily, naturally, peacefully. Later in the afternoon, I took a few moments to lie on the floor, stretching my back gently, letting my arms rest by my sides, noticing the contact between my body and the floor, the weight of my legs, the warmth of my back. And I noticed how often we forget to simply lie down during the day, how often we push through fatigue instead of honoring it, and I felt a deep appreciation for the small gift of time I was giving myself, the gift of listening to the body, the gift of noticing, the gift of slowing down. And as the afternoon slowly faded into evening, I prepared another light meal, something simple, healthy, easy to digest, and I focused on eating it slowly, chewing carefully, noticing flavors, textures, the warmth of the food, the satisfaction it brought. Because I had learned that when we eat mindfully, the body feels calm, the digestion flows better, the energy becomes steady, and the nervous system relaxes, which helps the mind settle as night approaches, and I realize that so many people ignore this simple connection between eating, body, and sleep, yet it is one of the easiest ways to help the body rest when the night comes. After dinner, I took another short walk, this time in the quiet of the early evening, noticing the soft light fading from the sky, the cool air brushing my skin, the distant hum of life slowing down, and I felt the body respond, gently, slowly, as though it was preparing itself for a restful night, and I understood that movement, care, attention, and small acts of gentleness during the day create a bridge to sleep, a bridge that carries both body and mind toward rest without force, without struggle, just softly, naturally. When I returned home, I spent the evening in a calm space, turning off bright lights, avoiding screens, choosing only soft light and quiet sounds, listening to my own breathing and paying attention to the subtle signals of the body, noticing tiredness, noticing warmth, noticing tension easing, noticing the heartbeat slowing, and as I prepared for bed, I felt a deep connection between the care I had given to my body during the day and the way my mind was already beginning to quiet, and I realized that good sleep is not a single act, not just lying down, not just closing eyes. Good sleep is the result of many small acts of attention, care, gentleness, and respect that we give ourselves throughout the day, and when these acts accumulate, sleep becomes natural, welcoming, peaceful, as if the body itself opens the door and invites us inside. Lying down finally under the soft blanket, feeling the pillow cradle my head, I reflected on the lessons of the day, the ways I had learned to honor the body, the gentle walks, the slow meals, the mindful movements, the pauses, the stretches, the attention. And I felt a quiet satisfaction, a soft gratitude for the partnership I was building with my own body, and I knew that even if tomorrow brought a busy day or unexpected stress, this relationship, this awareness, this gentle habit of listening would help carry me through, creating nights that are calmer, deeper, more restful, more healing, and as my eyelids grew heavier, my breath slower, my body softening into the bed, I realized that the journey toward better sleep is also a journey toward understanding, caring, and respecting ourselves, one small step, one gentle moment, one mindful breath at a time, and with this thought, I let myself drift towards sleep, trusting that my body, my mind, and my heart were ready, that the night was welcoming, and that rest, deep and peaceful, was finally possible. As the night grew deeper and my body lay quietly under the soft blanket, I felt the gentle tug of thoughts trying to return, small whispers at first, soft and distant, reminding me of things I had not finished, of moments I wished I had acted differently, of worries about tomorrow, of small decisions that seemed important in the dark, and at first I felt the old tension rise, the old worry that maybe these thoughts would not leave, that maybe sleep would once again be hard to find, that maybe the night would be restless, and I noticed the familiar cycle, the mind thinking faster because the body is still, the mind racing because the heart is calm, the mind speaking louder because there is no distraction, and I understood that this is a common struggle for many people, for anyone who lies awake at night, and I wanted to share with you the simple truth I discovered, that these thoughts are not enemies, they are visitors. And when we treat them gently, when we acknowledge them without fear, when we let them float through without grabbing hold, they become quiet naturally, almost effortlessly, and I began to practice this in that moment, noticing each thought, naming it softly in my mind, planning, remembering, worrying, and then letting it go, letting it drift away like a leaf on a calm stream, and I felt a little freedom growing inside me, a little space opening, a quiet space where the night could finally be still. I noticed the rhythm of my own breathing, slow and steady, rising and falling like gentle waves on the shore, and I focused on that rhythm, using it as an anchor, a soft place to return to whenever thoughts tried to pull me away. And I realized how powerful the simple act of noticing the breath can be, how much it can calm the mind without needing force, without needing pressure, just slow observation, just gentle awareness. And as I continued, I felt the night itself becoming a partner, the darkness around me no longer threatening, no longer lonely, but soft, welcoming, a safe place to rest, a safe place to let go, a safe place to allow the mind to finally slow. I remembered the lessons of the previous day, the gentle walks, the mindful eating, the small pauses, the stretches, the soft listening to the body, and I understood that these practices were now supporting me in a new way, helping the mind become quieter, helping the thoughts become lighter, helping the heart become calmer, and I felt a deep gratitude for the small choices that had brought me to this moment, a gratitude for the care I had given myself, for the patience I had practiced, for the understanding I had cultivated, because all of these were like seeds that now allowed the night to feel gentle, the mind to feel soft, the body to feel safe. And as I drifted further into this quiet, I began to notice a pattern in my thoughts, the way certain worries repeated themselves, the way some memories came back like echoes, and I realized that noticing the pattern without judging it is a key step. Because when we stop labeling the mind as bad or wrong, when we stop resisting the thoughts, we open a door to calm, to understanding, to rest, and I began to whisper silently to myself words of kindness, words of reassurance. It is okay. You're safe. You are allowed to rest, and these words became like a gentle wave washing over me, softening the edges of my mind, easing the tension in my chest, loosening the tightness in my shoulders, and I felt a deep sense of relief. Almost like the first sigh of a calm morning after a long, restless night. The night, I realized, is not only for sleep. The night is for listening, for understanding, for gently returning to the self, for learning patience with our own minds, and when we treat the night this way, sleep arrives naturally, not as a forced goal, but as a quiet reward for the gentle attention we give ourselves. And I felt that the night was teaching me something valuable, something that could help not only tonight, but every night that followed, something that could help anyone who struggles with thoughts at night, something simple and soft. Listen, notice, breathe, release, and trust the natural rhythm of mind and body together. And as these thoughts grew quieter, as the whispers became softer, as the dark room around me felt safe and steady, I noticed my eyelids growing heavier, my breath slowing further, my body sinking deeper into the bed, and I felt a quiet smile inside me, a feeling of calm accomplishment, a small but powerful transformation, because I had learned once again that even when the mind whispers, even when thoughts return, even when worry appears, there is a gentle way to respond, a peaceful way to rest, a soft path that leads towards sleep, and with that thought carrying me forward, I allowed the night to hold me completely, letting the mind settle, letting the body soften, letting the heart feel safe, letting the gentle practice of awareness guide me into the quiet, deep comfort of rest. Even as sleep began to settle softly over me, I noticed that my mind still tried to whisper small reminders, tiny worries, unfinished tasks from the day, the list of things I needed to do tomorrow, and I realized how natural this is. How the mind always seeks to organize, to control, to plan, even when the body has asked only for rest. And I thought about how often we get frustrated with ourselves for thinking too much at night, how often we feel guilty for not sleeping immediately. And I wanted to tell you, the listener, that this is normal, that this is human, and that the key is not to fight the thoughts, but to treat them like gentle clouds passing across the sky, noticing them without holding on, acknowledging them without judgment, letting them float by while returning softly to the breath, the heartbeat, the gentle weight of the body on the bed. I noticed my shoulders relaxing further, my hands unclenching naturally, my jaw softening, and I understood that the body always responds when we allow it to, when we stop resisting, when we stop demanding, and that the whispers of the mind lose their urgency when the body feels safe, supported, and cared for. I remembered the small lessons I had practiced that day, drinking water slowly, walking mindfully, stretching gently, eating with attention, preparing the space for rest, and I realized that each of these actions had built a bridge to this moment. A bridge where the mind could settle, the body could soften, and sleep could finally arrive without force. And as I focused again on the rhythm of my breathing, slow and steady, rising and falling, I began to notice that even the whispers of the mind had started to soften, to slow down, to lose their tension, and I felt a small wave of gratitude for my own patience, for my own gentleness, for the willingness to practice listening instead of fighting, because this was the true key to calm, the true key to rest, the true key to better sleep, patience, awareness, and soft acceptance. I repeated silently in my mind, "It is okay. You are safe. You are allowed to rest," and these words became like a small lullaby, a gentle comfort that wrapped around my heart, loosening worry, softening tension, inviting calm, and I realized that these simple words, combined with attention to the body and the breath, could guide anyone toward rest, even when the mind was active, even when thoughts returned, even when the night seemed long. Slowly, the whispers faded, leaving only the soft rhythm of the breath, the gentle weight of the body, the comforting stillness of the dark room, and I felt a quiet triumph, a small but powerful transformation. Because I had learned that even in the presence of restless thoughts, peace is possible, calm is possible, and sleep is possible, if we respond with kindness, patience, and awareness. And as my body and mind continued to relax, as the night fully embraced me, I allowed myself to drift deeper into the softness of the bed, into the quiet of the mind, into the gentle comfort of rest, trusting that this practice, this gentle attention to both body and mind, would continue to guide me through future nights, would continue to teach me how to let go, how to listen, how to rest, and I realized that the night itself had become a teacher, showing me that rest is not only a physical state, but also a state of awareness, a state of gentle acceptance, a state of soft presence, and with that understanding, I finally let myself surrender completely, letting the whispers fade, letting the body sink fully, letting the breath carry me into deep, peaceful sleep.